I don't really recollect the last time I saw such a bold mainstream Hindi film. Watching it literally made me uncomfortable, but for the good. Let's break it down. Hello guys, I'm Nona, and today we're talking about the latest Hindi film, Oh My God 2, written and directed by Amit Rai. Now the film got an adult certificate from the censor board, and that has to be the biggest irony because the theme of the film is not just for the adults but also for the teenagers. And that's what the film is propagating, but they only cannot watch it. There were a lot of reports claiming that censor board has asked for 27 cuts, but that wasn't the case if the film wants a UA certificate, so that from the age group of 13 plus can watch the film. But the makers refused that and went with an adult certificate, but still had to make 25 modifications in the film. And you will notice that because there are a lot of times in the films, scenes are overdubbed. You can see the lip sync is not matching with what is being said. I wonder what the censor board doesn't want the adults of the country to watch. Now if you haven't seen the film, please do it. It's a must recommendation for me. Now going forward in the video, I may have to reveal some details about the film, so a spoiler alert. If you have seen the film, then only continue watching. Now when you analyze a film, you look at the different aspects of it, its attributes, the filmmaking, the technical department, the performances, the writing, and on the basis of that, this film is not perfect, but the way it tackles the theme, which in the current context is so important that you can ignore the flaws. Now the first Oh My God was based on a Gujarati play which was inspired from an Australian film Man Who Sued God. It was a satirical comedy drama talking about what does faith in God means and how it is misused by the so-called God men and sell fear in the name of faith. And that was a very important film for India. And yes, it did stir controversies. Now Oh My God 2 is a spiritual sequel which is talking about sex education. And it's not the first film that is doing that. There are many films which has talked about this but in different ways. They were more indie films, more serious films. But this was a mainstream film dealing with it, debating sex education in a courtroom drama. And one more difference is whenever sex education is talked about, it's mostly through the female perspective. And it makes sense because they are the one who face the consequences because of the lack of sex education. But this film takes it through a male perspective. And that changes so much that it becomes new and refreshing. It has been stated that the lack of sex education is the biggest reason behind sexual crimes in our country. And the film explores what that lack of knowledge can lead to, especially with kids, how they can be misguided by everyone around them. And this is so relatable for every one of us. We all have been through that because it's a part of all of our lives. But no one will talk about it as if it's Voldemort because the society thinks it's vulgar, shameless. But we all do it behind the doors. No wonder we are the most populated country in the world. And the film raises this question, whose job is to teach them? And it's everyone around them, their families, the school. They need to help them out and not just leave them to tackle it on their own. And the irony is that we come from a culture that taught the whole world about sex. And the film raises this question too. They did a great job at depicting the issue. It's not surface level, they go in depth. It is straightforward, no mincing of words. And that's what surprises you because you don't expect it. And the film also spends time on the counter arguments. It's not just the film wants to make this point and they believe that's right and you should believe it. That's not the case. There are valid counter arguments which in a real society is the cause and friction of getting sex education in schools. Throughout the film, everything is very direct, but there's also subtle imagery. The film is saying a lot more things without pointing fingers at it. And I think that's why everything feels convincing. It doesn't feel like a fictional world. Now you have to remember that the film is not targeting people who already believe sex education is good, but people who don't even know about it or feel it's not good. And the treatment of the film is according to that. Whenever sex education is talked about, it's always in English, mostly. And the film challenges that by making it accessible to common man, to everyone, thus making talking about the subject more approachable. Now the comedy throughout the film works because it's situational and not very forced. I would say it is a bit preachy. It has some really hard hitting moments. There are some scenes it's just pure silence. Even the whole theater is quiet. And just a few minutes ago, everyone was laughing. See, when films like this come, I'm not expecting that it will change everyone. No, a film cannot do that. It's a big process. It's not a switch you can turn on and off. So even if the film makes people aware about it and think about this issue, that's a success. Now the big concept of the Oh My God franchise is God, or not God, his messenger is sent to help the character. And I think this idea is used in this film to make the film more palatable, to give a kind of reasoning for people to keep watching. Now if you compare this film with the first one, I would say Akshay Kumar's role is very less in this. Maybe it was cut out, maybe it was part of that modification the censor board asked. And in a sense, to me, it felt like they force fit this concept and idea that Avatar of God has come. As I said, it's a spiritual sequel, but it feels like they had this story and they thought, let's merge that into the Oh My God universe. And if you notice, the story beats us very similar in both the films. Now, one thing story-wise I wanted more was the personal growth of the characters. I wanted more scenes between the family and their conflict. If you remember in the first one, the family leaves him and he's all alone but still has to fight for the right. That just added more tension to the narrative. But here, the acceptance of the issue was very important. But I don't know if it even happens or not because it just goes into a montage and then everything is fine. And I feel the dispute between the family was important to explore because that's half battle won. Before you go fight the society, you need to first fight in the family and make everyone understand. Pankaj Tripathi was clearly the highlight of the film. Yami Gautam did a fine job. Pawan Malhotra as the judge, he was really good. And all the supporting characters did really well. Now Akshay Kumar was really good in whatever he got, especially the funny scenes. He has a great comedic timing. But there were moments where he had to deliver a long dialogue, which was his teaching to the character. But when he was delivering these dialogues, it literally felt that he had just memorized and he's just saying all this. Every time we got a scene like that, it reminded me of the PSA about sanitary pads, where he's like, hey Nandu, which actually plays in front of every film. See, with this film, the value is greater than its means. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. Now in this video, I talked about another film which had great value, the Karan Johar comeback Rocky or Rani Ki Prem Kahaani. You can check out my review here. Did it go too woke? Find out. What are your thoughts? Do let me know in the comments below. If you like this, the thumbs up button, share this, and I'll see you next time.